But soon she'll realize the blue collar's restraint on mutants is like a bad reality show. All wait to see her fail. Back in her cell, she decides to flaunt her superpowers. She decided to work out anyway, only to hear the cruel laughter around her, feeling like she was at an unwanted party. Just then, a prisoner across revealed this collar is specially designed for mutants to restrict their powers akin to signing a non-participation contract. They stated none of the mutants here would survive. Hearing this, Polaris felt more determined to escape, like being cast in a tragic show. She knew before getting locked up that she was pregnant and couldn't let her unborn child grow up in a crazy place, like a terrifying theme park. Polaris decided to reach out to the pale mutant beside her, thinking they would support each other. But unexpectedly, the guy glanced at Yuba and dashed away faster than he even told Polaris to stay away. She had to think of other plans. Unbeknownst to her, next day on yard duty, Yuba approached Polaris, asking her to be his sidekick. As Magneto's daughter, Polaris went eager of Tilda this request. Yuba stood up and said, "Trust me, you don't want to do this. Just look at the outside world. Out there, you're Superman, but in here, I'm the real superhero." Listening to her naive words, Polaris rolled her eyes and was knocked down by Yuba's goon, like a slapstick scene. Without a word, they started a round of punches and kicks. Seeing Polaris out made Yuba as happy as a kid in a candy store. Yuba knew Polaris was pregnant but still kicked her in the belly, and that was the last straw for Polaris. Ignoring the pain from the collar, she unleashed her powers, pinning Yuba to the iron mesh, feeling a bit out of control. Luckily, Eugene arrived just in time to separate them, but afterward, Yuba's lackeys unhesitatingly locked Polaris away. "I support her." Recalling good times with her boyfriend, Polaris felt wronged, as if life had abandoned her. But she was still just in her 20s. For the innocent child inside her, she had to escape this terrifying place ASAP, and finally, the door opened. But Polaris had hit her limit. Weak, she crawled out of her cell, and Eugene saw a flicker of hope in her struggling form. To prevent Polaris from escaping again, the prison decided to move her to a safer location, specially creating a getaway car just for her. The interior was wrapped in soft plastic. Polaris' powers were completely useless here, like putting on a show with no skills. Meanwhile, the mutant base was hatching a rescue plan for Polaris, like excited detective geniuses. After careful planning and repeated simulations, they set up an ambush on the getaway route, holding their breath like sneaky little. Soon enough, the getaway car rolled in, and mutants seized the moment to use their powers, blowing out the tires to halt it right there. The Sentinels quickly disembarked and went on high alert, while invisible mutants got ready to check things out when suddenly, a cop up front spotted like a ghost, and at that moment, other mutants' powers flickered out. A hiding muscle guy saw a shiny man in the crowd. That guy had disrupted the mutants' powers. He was none other than their former trustworthy aide, Mike. At that moment, Polaris' boyfriend noticed the powers failed, whipped out his gun, faced it off with Sentinels like a movie scene. Just as the bullets flew, the muscle guy seized the chance to knock Mike out from behind, and suddenly everyone's powers came roaring back. Inside the getaway car, Polaris felt the familiar magnetic field outside and got excited, coaxing the guards to take off her collar like claiming her toy back. Then, with her pals, they knocked out the guards, but with no metal in the car, her powers felt like May decorations. What a bummer. Just when she was at a loss, Polaris smiled and decided to use her power to pull a steel nail out of her friend's leg. Then she used it to pierce the bindings on their hands. The guards were shocked and started calling for backup, but it was too late. The door flew open with a bang. Polaris jumped out, leaving Sentinels in chaos with no plan. People scattered in all directions, and before Polaris and her boyfriend could bask in their reunion joy, they saw the Sentinel captain blocking their path, a scene right out of a movie. Facing the incoming bullets, Polaris was unafraid, waving her hand and snatching the captain's gun as if she was eagerly collecting toys. The captain knew he was powerless, and to his surprise, Polaris had no intention of killing him, instead dragging him to a rundown spot like her trophy. "Since you like putting collars on others, let me give you a taste of suffocation." She raised her hand and powerful steel rods shot out from the wall. In an instant, all the rods hit the cars below like arrows. The special forces hesitated and thought of a way to coax her out instead. Soon, the police launched tear gas into the entrance, making everyone emotional as if watching a melodrama, while her boyfriend quickly led Polaris away from the chaos. Time flew by, and in just a few months, Polaris became a formidable soon-to-be mom. One day while shopping, Polaris felt a sudden pain in her belly, and a car weighing tons next to her magically moved out of that night. Polaris was in pain, lights flickering. Her boyfriend rushed her to the special room like a superhero. As Polaris screamed, dozens of tons of forklifts started revving up, creating a dazzling spectacle that left everyone baffled. Meanwhile, the metal objects outside seemed to be summoned, and even though Polaris was trying her best, the little one showed no signs of coming. If this continued, both mother and child would be in danger. Thankfully, the sisters planned to use the powers to invade Polaris' mind, like injecting her with positive energy. They showed her a vision of a world where mutants were accepted and peace reigned, and thinking of creating a bright future for her child, Polaris burst forth with the force of nature. In an instant, everything metal around her responded. Cars began to move uncontrollably, and smoke filled the air, plunging the city into darkness. At last, the baby was born, and Polaris held her adorable little one, naming him Shenzai, as if bestowing a superhero title. Her friends were also touched by this warm moment, exchanging relieved smiles like a joyous family reunion. But new mom Polaris didn't know how to care for a baby. Shenzai cried non-stop. Seeing this, the sisters tried using their powers.